Imagine a place where the mountains are so tall they touch the clouds and the forests are so thick you cannot see the sun. This is Katmai National Park in Alaska. It is beautiful. It is silent. But it is also deadly. In this first block, I'm going to take you inside the mind of a man who thought he could talk to monsters. His name was Timothy Treadwell. For 13 years, he lived among the largest grizzly bears on Earth without a gun or a fence. He believed he was their brother. He believed he was safe. But the story I am about to tell you is not a fairy tale. It is a criminal dossier of a disappearance that turned into a bloodbath. In October 2003, Timothy and his girlfriend, Amy Huguenot, vanished from their camp. When the rangers found what was left, the world was shocked. Why did he stay so late in the season? Why did he ignore the warnings of every expert in the country? Stay with me, keep your eyes closed, and let the sounds of the Alaskan wind guide you through the first chapter of this tragedy. Before we dive into the blood and the evidence, remember to subscribe to Mind 74 and hit the like button. You are now part of this investigation. The man who loved bears. Visualize Timothy. He has long blonde hair and a voice that sounds like a child. He films himself every day. In his mind, he is a hero protecting the bears from hunters. But there is a problem. There are no hunters in this part of Katmai. It is a protected land. The only thing Timothy was protecting the bears from was nothing. He gave them names like Booble and Ginger. He would walk up to them and touch their noses. He would sing to them. Imagine the sound of a 500-kilogram predator breathing just inches from your face. Timothy felt a rush of power. He felt special. He was a failed actor from California who found a stage in the wild. But the bears did not know they were in a movie. To them, Timothy was just a strange, loud animal that was breaking the rules of the forest. He would sleep in a small tent right in the middle of their pass. Can you hear the sound of the grass moving outside the tent? That is the sound of a king walking past a human who does not realize he is made of meat. The silent warning. Every year, the park rangers told Timothy to move. They told him he was going to die. Even the local people in the nearby towns thought he was crazy. They called him a disaster waiting to happen. But Timothy did not listen. He hated the government. He hated the rules. He thought he knew more than the scientists. Imagine the tension in the air as summer turns to autumn. In August, the bears are fat and happy because of the salmon. But in October, the salmon are gone. The bears become desperate. They need fat for the winter. They stop being friends and start being killers. Timothy's neighbors in the wild were changing. The nice bears he knew had gone to sleep. New bears, old and hungry bears, were coming down from the mountains. This is where the story takes a dark turn. This is where the dream becomes a nightmare. Amy's fear. Now, I want you to imagine Amy. She was a doctor's assistant. She was quiet and she was terrified of bears. She only went to Alaska because she loved Timothy. In the final days, you can hear the change in the atmosphere. The rain is constant. The mud is everywhere. Amy wanted to leave. She had a new job waiting for her. They were supposed to fly out on September 29th. But Timothy had an argument with an airline employee and decided to go back to the camp for one more week. One more week in the dark. One more week in the rain. Can you feel her anxiety? She is sitting in a tent, listening to the growls of hungry animals outside, knowing that her boyfriend thinks he is invincible. This was the moment the trap was set. The tragedy was no longer a possibility. It was a countdown. The last recording. The sun goes down early in October. The nights are long and black. On the night of October 5th, Timothy turned on his camera. He did not remove the lens cap. Why? Maybe it was too dark. Maybe he was in a hurry. But the microphone was working perfectly. For 6 minutes, the audio recorded the reality of nature. It is the most famous piece of evidence in forensic history that the public has never seen. It is a 6-minute-long dossier of pain. As you lie there, listen to the imaginary sound of that tape starting. The click of the button. The static. And then the first scream. The rain is hitting the tent like thousands of tiny fingers. Suddenly a rip. The sound of heavy claws tearing through the fabric. Timothy is outside. He is not filming a movie anymore. He is fighting for his life. In the audio recording, you hear him scream, "Get out here. I'm being killed." Amy runs out. She does not have a gun. She has a frying pan. Imagine the sound of metal hitting a bear's thick skull. Playing, playing. It does nothing. The bear is Bear 141. He is old and his teeth are broken. He is in constant pain, and he is starving. He bites Timothy's head. Can you hear the sound of a coconut breaking? That is Timothy's skull. Amy is screaming. Timothy tells her to run. He tells her to save herself. But she stays. She stays and she watches the man she loves being eaten alive in the dark. The dragging into the shadows. The bear is not in a hurry. He drags Timothy into the bushes. You can hear the sound of branches snapping and Timothy's moans getting quieter. Then silence. For a few seconds, the only sound is the rain. Then Amy starts to scream. It is a high, thin sound that cuts through the wind. The bear has come back for her. This is the moment the grizzly man legend died. There was no poetry. There was no spiritual connection. There was only the sound of teeth and the sound of the rain. The recording stops there. 6 minutes. That is all it took to destroy 2 lives and 13 years of work. Imagine the pilot, Willie Fulton, flying his plane the next morning. He thinks he is picking up his friends. He thinks he will see Timothy waving his arms. But when he looks down, he sees something else. The pilot's discovery. Willie Fulton landed his plane on the water. He walked toward the camp. He called Timothy's name. No answer. He saw a bear sitting on top of a pile of dirt. The bear looked at him with cold, black eyes. Willie felt a chill that had nothing to do with the weather. He knew that look. He ran back to his plane and took off. From the air, he saw the truth. The tent was destroyed. There was blood on the grass. He radioed the park rangers. Imagine the sound of the helicopter blades cutting the air as the authorities arrived. They were not there for a rescue. They were there for a recovery. They had to shoot the bear immediately because it tried to attack them. When the bear fell, the investigation truly began. The forensic harvest. I want you to imagine the investigators opening the stomach of that bear. It is a grisly task. Inside, they found the evidence of the crime. They found 4 large bags of human remains. They found fingers with rings still on them. They found blonde hair. They found pieces of a blue sweatshirt. But the most haunting discovery was outside the bear. In the tall grass, they found a head. It was Timothy's head, still connected to a piece of his spine. And nearby, they found his arm. On that arm, his watch was still working. Tick, tick, tick. It was a reminder that the world keeps moving even when we are gone. Amy was found partially buried near the tent. She was the secondary meal. The bear had treated them like any other prey. He had stored them for later. The neighbor's theory. What do the people who live nearby think? The locals in Alaska have a different view of nature than people in cities. They were not surprised. One neighbor said, Timothy treated bears like they were people in bear suits. He forgot that they are bears in bear suits. They saw Timothy as a man who committed a crime against nature by making the animals lose their fear of humans. To them, Timothy was the one who caused the bears to be killed. If he had never gone there, those bears would still be alive. They didn't see a hero. They saw a man whose ego was larger than his common sense. As you listen to this, ask yourself, was Timothy a protector or was he a victim of his own vanity? Before he was the grizzly man, he was Timothy Dexter. He was a young man who wanted to be a star in Hollywood. He even tried out for the role of Woody in the show Cheers, but he didn't get it. He fell into a dark hole of drugs and alcohol. He almost died from an overdose. He said the bears saved his life. He felt that the human world rejected him, but the bears accepted him. But did they? Or was he just projecting his feelings onto them? Imagine a man standing in front of a mirror, putting on a costume. Timothy created a character. He changed his accent. He made up stories about his past. He needed the bears to be his audience because humans wouldn't watch his show. This is the psychological root of the dossier. He wasn't saving bears. He was saving himself from his own failures. The delusion of safety. Timothy used to talk to the bears in a high, squeaky voice. He would tell them he loved them. He would say, "I would die for you." He said this many times on camera. Be careful what you wish for. In his mind, he had a spirit bond with the animals. But scientists who study bear behavior say this is a dangerous delusion. A bear does not have friends. It has competitors, it has mates, and it has food. Timothy was breaking the social rules of the bear world every day. He was like a person who walks into a stranger's house and starts touching their children. Eventually, the owner of the house is going to react. Imagine the frustration of the park rangers who had to watch his videos. They saw a man who was walking toward a cliff and laughing the whole way. The secret audio. There is a lot of talk about the lost tape. The director Werner Herzog made a famous movie about Timothy called Grizzly Man. In the movie, Herzog listens to the tape while Amy's friend watches him. He has headphones on. His face changes. He looks sick. He tells the woman, "You must never listen to this. You must destroy it." Why? Because the audio is too real. It strips away the myth of the grizzly man. It shows that in the end, Timothy was terrified. He wasn't a brother to the bears. He was a man dying in a very ugly, very lonely way. The fact that this tape exists, but is hidden, makes the case even more mysterious. It is the final piece of the criminal dossier that stays in the shadows. It is the evidence of the moment the fantasy died. A community divided. The world was split after the news broke. Some people thought he was a martyr for the environment. They thought he was a beautiful soul who died for his passion. But the scientific community was angry. They said Timothy did more harm than good. By making bears comfortable around humans, he made them more likely to approach other campers who might shoot them. He taught the bears that humans are not a threat. This is a death sentence for a bear. Imagine the conflict. On one side, the dreamers. On the other side, the realists. The neighbors in Alaska were the loudest. They felt that Timothy's death was an insult to the wilderness. They felt he didn't respect the animals' right to be wild. He wanted to own their spirits, and the bear responded by owning his body. The preparation for the end. In the final days, Timothy's behavior was getting more strange. He was talking to the camera about his enemies in the government. He was crying. He felt that the world was closing in on him. He felt that the only place he was safe was with the bears. But the bears were changing. The salmon run was the worst in years. The bears were fighting each other for food. Imagine the camp. The smell of rain. The sound of bears growling in the distance. Timothy was exhausted. Amy was scared. They were trapped in a cycle of paranoia and hunger. The stage was set for the final act. But the story did not end there. After the bodies were recovered and the bears were killed, a huge debate started. The Grizzly People organization that Timothy started tried to keep his mission alive. But the image of the blonde man singing to bears was forever replaced by the image of the bear sitting on the dirt pile. Imagine the funeral. There were no bodies to bury, only small pieces of what used to be people. They were cremated, and their ashes were scattered in the park where they died. It is a haunting thought. They are now part of the soil. They are part of the grass that the bears eat. Timothy finally got his wish. He became part of the wilderness. But at what cost? The lesson of Katmai. Katmai National Park is still there. The bears are still there. But the rules are stricter now. The Treadwell rule is unspoken but understood by everyone. Don't get close. The Park Service uses Timothy's death as a lesson for every new visitor. They show the photos of the destroyed camp. They tell the story of the 6-minute tape. It is a warning to anyone who thinks that nature is a Disney movie. Nature is a system of energy. It does not care about your feelings. It does not care about your mission. It only cares about survival. Can you hear the silence of the park now? It is a heavy silence. It is the silence of respect that comes from fear. The voice from the grave. Even today, people still watch Timothy's videos. They see his passion. They see the beautiful shots of the Alaska mountains. But now we watch them through the lens of the dossier. We see the bear in the background and we know what it is thinking. We see Timothy's smile and we know it will be gone. His voice, once so full of life, is now a ghost in the machine. He wanted to be famous, and he is. but he is famous for being the man who forgot he was a guest in a house of giants. Amy Huguenot's name is often forgotten, but she is the true tragedy. She followed a man into a nightmare because she believed in him. She is the reminder that our delusions can kill the people we love. The final call to action. As we close this file on Mind 74, I want you to take a deep breath. Feel the safety of your bed. Feel the walls around you. We are lucky to live in a world with roofs and doors. The wild is a place to visit, not to possess. Timothy Treadwell tried to cross the line, and the line bit back. What do you think? Was Timothy a hero who was misunderstood, or was he a dangerous man who got what he deserved? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Your theories are the fuel for our next investigation. If you found this dossier chilling, make sure to share it with someone who loves true crime. The more people join us, the deeper we can go into the dark. The investigation never ends. Thank you for joining me in this journey through the Alaskan mist. Every crime leaves a trace, even if that trace is just a ticking watch in the tall grass. Keep your mind open, but keep your doors locked. The world is full of mysteries, and many of them are waiting for us to find them. Subscribe to Mind 74 so you don't miss our next case. We will be diving into the psychology of another killer mind very soon. I am your guide, and this dossier is now closed. But remember, the bears are still out there, and they are still hungry. Sleep well if you can. Until next time.